The minutes accurately reflects the meeting minutes of the May 12th, 2022 Zoning Advisory Board meeting, and that the notation be signed by both the current chair and the secretary. Do I have that motion?
I'll move to approve the April 14th, 2022 minutes and the May 12th, 2022 minutes with the notations that were just read in.
Okay. I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, I have a motion, and I have a motion by Mr. Vim, and I have a second by Mr. Richardson. All in favor? Motion carries. Thank you. Okay. Yes.
We also need to approve the February 2023 ZAB meeting minutes as well.
Correct. Okay, do I have a motion to approve the February 2023 minutes?
I'll move to approve the February 9th, 2023 minutes.
Okay, I have a motion by Mr. Vim and a second by Mrs. Walker. All in favor? Motion carries. Okay. Any further announcements?
No, sir.
If not, let's move to the first case, please. And this will be one of our associated cases. You'll see the clock to a 10-minute and additional 10 minutes.
Walker Jordan, PC of Stockbridge, Georgia, request an amendment to the comprehensive plan for property located at 40 Mount Carmel Road and land lot 107 of the 6th District. The property consists of 4.085 plus or minus acres, and the request is to amend the future land use map designation from medium density residential to commercial, District 5, presented by Faith Palmer, Planner 1, and associated case RZ 2227, Hetch Walker Jordan, PC of Stockbridge, Georgia, requests a rezoning from RA Residential Agricultural to C2 General Commercial for property located at 40 North Mount Carmel Road and land lot 107 of the 6th District. The property consists of 4.085 plus or minus acres, and the request is for a commercial development in District 5, presented by Faith Palmer, Planner 1.
Good evening, Chair, board members, and citizens of Henry County. The two requests before you are for property located at 40 North Mount Carmel Road. The property is currently zoned RA, Residential Agricultural, with the future land use designation of medium density residential. Additionally, the applicant is requesting to amend the future land use designation from medium density residential to commercial and to rezone the property from RA, Residential Agricultural, to C2, General Commercial, to support the RZ 2227 rezoning request. Here is a current zoning map of the property with the subject property outlined in green. The property is zoned RA, Residential Agricultural. The property has a future land use designation of medium density residential. The property is outlined in green. The applicant is requesting to rezone 4.085 plus or minus acres from RA Residential Agricultural to C2 General Commercial for the purpose of creating a gas station with 5 gas pumps along with 7 retail suites. The proposed retail uses have not been disclosed by the applicant at this time. The adjacent properties to the subject property are all zoned RA Residential Agricultural. The property sits at the corner of North Mount Carmel Road and Jonesboro Road within the Highway Corridor Overlay District. The subject property is currently zoned RA Residential Agricultural with the future land use map designation of medium density residential. In addition to the rezoning request, the applicant is also requesting a comprehensive plan amendment to support the concurrent rezoning request to amend the future land use designation for the subject property from medium density residential to commercial, which would support the proposed development and rezoning request RZ-22-27. A change in the future land use map to commercial is required to support the applicant's rezoning request. The property has a future land use designation of medium-density residential, which does not support commercial uses. Here we have a few comments from additional county staff regarding this potential project. Water and public sewer is available to the property. According to Henry County Transportation Planning, there are plans to widen Jonesboro Road from 2 lanes to 4 lanes from I-75 to North Mount Carmel Road. And Fire Station number 15 will respond to this property. Staff is recommending denial of both the comprehensive plan amendment as well as the rezoning request for this property. I'm happy to take any questions.
Does the board have questions for staff?
What is the timeline for the widening of Jonesboro Road?
The proposed development is planned to start 2026.
Thank you.
Any additional questions for staff? Okay, if not, we'd like the applicant to come forward, please. Please state your name and address for the record.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board. John Jordan, I'm with Hecht Walker Jordan PC, 205 Corporate Center Drive, Suite B, Stockbridge, Georgia, 30281. Our firm's the applicant for this item, and we also represent the ownership for the property. Mr. Seyum Petros is with us here tonight. He's one of the principals and partners of the ownership. He's with us here tonight in case there's any questions for him. My client's looking to develop the property for a convenience store and gas station with attached storefront small retail suites for lease. The tenants have not been determined yet. They typically won't sign a lease until the property's there, and then you build to suit to them. But they would be small retail suites that would complement the primary purpose, which would be the convenience store and the gas station. The subject property is currently zoned RA with a future land use map designation of medium density residential. We're requesting that it be rezoned to C2 for commercial purposes and also to amend the future land use map designation to commercial as well for consistency purposes. Right now, I don't believe the future land use map is even consistent with the current zoning of RA, so we would, of course, want to do that to support our development as well. As far as the location is at the intersection with Jonesboro Road and North Mount Carmel Road. You got about 300 feet of road frontage on Jonesboro Road, about the same amount on North Mount Carmel Road. The Crystal Lake community is just south of this property, and then you've got several other subdivisions going east towards I-75 as well. There is no other gas station in this area right here. The closest one is more than 2.5 miles this way towards the big box corridor, Target and all that. I believe it's a Shell. The next closest one is about 4.6 miles the other direction, right before you get to Terra Boulevard. So there is a need for another option to fill up as well. That's a look at the corner where the development would be right here. On Jonesboro Road going west, you can see there's already a traffic light and traffic calming device here. And this is looking the other direction. The subject property is right here. The development would be more of a community retail development. It would accommodate more the needs of the residents that are already there, as well as people that are just incidentally passing by on Jonesboro Road. It's not going to be a destination location. You're not going to be pulling customers from other parts of the county. So you really don't have that concern or threat of additional traffic. It's more so convenience for the residents in this area. It provides an option, an alternate option for the residents to fill up their cars, get some small minor groceries, some everyday needs, without having to go miles down towards I-75, get into the hustle and bustle of the Target shopping center. I believe there's a Publix coming up soon. Just provides a little stop and go for the area and passersby. Mr. Petros has been in this business for quite a while, more than a couple of decades, and has a pretty successful track record in operating convenience stores and gas stations. In fact, he currently owns the BP gas station at the corner of Walt Stevens and Black Hall Road, which he's owned and operated for at least 20 years. He would also be owning and operating this business as well. So we'd like to bring his knowledge, his experience, and his track record of success to this location for this area as well. As far as the development itself, the development's going to have 2 points of access, one on Jonesboro Road, one on North Mount Carmel Road. Again, there's traffic light already there, which is good for the project. There will be, this is a rendering of what we're expecting the project to look like. The building itself is about 9,000 square feet. That's going to contain the retail and the convenience store. The convenience store itself is planned for the middle. It's about 4,000 square feet, and each retail space for lease is planned to be about 1,300 square feet, so pretty modest for small businesses, businesses that fit the neighborhood, like dry cleaners, coffee shops, bookstores, that type of thing. Nothing major to attract people from far away and far. That's another rendering, a side rendering of the development. As you can see, there'll also be planned right now 5 gas pumps, double-sided gas pumps, under a canopy that would be facing Mount Carmel Road here. Additionally, we've got planned, there's a 40-foot buffer along the south and the west here, as well as a 8-foot solid privacy fence will be placed along these two sides. You can see here, you probably can't read this number, but the building itself is located about more than 200 feet from the western boundary line, so there's plenty of space there. In addition to the buffers, you're going to have streetscapes along Jonesboro Road and North Mount Carmel, which would consist of 10-foot sidewalks and 10-foot landing strip or landscaping strips. And then, of course, you'll have lighting, but those would be all downcast and shaded, all in accordance with the heightened development standards of the highway corridor overlay, which this would be subject to. We do believe that this would be a win-win for this location here. In addition to the convenience it adds to complement the surrounding neighborhoods, it would provide employment opportunities. It would generate additional tax revenue for the county, and we just think this is the place for this type of development at this time. And with that, we'd greatly appreciate your recommendation of approval and be happy to answer any questions.
Okay. Does the board have questions for the applicant? Okay. I have one question.
Sure.
You indicated that you didn't think the future land development was consistent with that area.
It's the future land use designation right now is medium density residential, which is not residential agriculture is a much less dense zoning. So medium density residential is for much more dense, like the neighborhoods you have around there, and not an agricultural. And it probably just because the zoning hadn't caught up with the future land use map amendment, but I just wanted to point out that the consistency wasn't there as it is.
And have the applicant considered any other usage?
My client is a commercial businessman who does this type of work, so this is what he's considered.
Okay, thank you. Does the board, anyone else have questions for the applicant? Okay. Okay, thank you, sir. We would like to allot the remaining time. We have 12 minutes, 47 seconds. Anyone wishing to speak in favor? Anyone wishing to speak in favor? If you're speaking in favor, please come forward. Okay. All right. If that's the, did you have something to say, Mr.?
As we're hearing two cases at one time, the allotted time is 20 minutes.
Well, we're down to 2 minutes now only, so it's 12 minutes remaining.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. If no one's coming forward, we would like to allot 20 minutes for anyone wishing to speak in opposition. And we have a total of 20 minutes for everyone wishing to speak, so keep in mind that it's a total of 20 minutes and 20 minutes only. Please state your name and address for the record.
My name is David Linton. I reside at 1030 Pampas Way, Hampton, Georgia. I'm also Vice President of the Homeowners Association of Crystal Lake Subdivision. We are against this proposal. One, there are two gas stations within a mile and a half of the proposed. He mentioned the Shell, but there's also the BP right on the next corner. This, we think, will not add any value to the property value. It's already, the growth of the community, or the county, as we all know, has grown tremendously over the last 10, 15 years. The infrastructure will not sustain it, as well as what we feel it will do to the property values. There's more and more development in that area, and we're not against development, but we're definitely against this type of development in that corridor. So I'm going to yield, but I represent the 600 plus homes in that community, and we want this to be denied.
Let me make a quick announcement. All applause, please hold on to those, because we're going to come and let the clock run, and we're going to hold on to all those applause until the end if you need to applaud someone. So let's just kind of keep it moving. Please state your name and address for the record.
Hi, I'm Lisa Ward. I'm at 771 Peninsula Overlook. I live in the Crystal Lake subdivision, and I live right down the road from this proposed development. And as the speaker before me stated, that we do have two gas stations within a mile and a half. They both sit on the corner of Jonesboro Road and Chambers Road. So adding another gas station is not necessary. Not only that, to keep up our property values and the dignity of what's already in the area, we wanted to continue to be residential, RA medium, and bring in some nice homes on that corner versus a gas station. A gas station is not necessary there, and it will not fit what's already there. So I'm opposing the gas station.
Good afternoon. My name is Marjorie Brown. I live at 1755 Signature Court, which is in Crystal Lake, in the Crystal Lake subdivision. I'm here tonight to voice my dissatisfaction that anyone would even propose to put a gas station on this corner. It sits in the middle of homes that have acreage, and it backs into a golf course. What does it look like to have a golf course that backs into a gas station? It's the proposal for this, we would ask the question, what's next? Will there be a gas, a truck stop next? Or will we have a car repair, automobile repair shop going up in our community? Already we need a walkable community. We're in need of sidewalks where the kids can walk from our community around the corner to Dutchtown schools. Now, if we sit a gas station, that almost prohibits that even coming into play at later time when the roads when the road is widened. There is, to correct the gentleman's statement, 2.5 miles. The gas station is just a tad bit over 1 mile from other gas stations. In fact, there are 2 gas stations. And when there's oversupply of anything, eventually somebody is going to go out of business. And I've seen that in other spots in our county. I saw it on Henry County Boulevard. 3 gas stations were built, and guess what? Now one of them is a tire company, one of them is a repair shop, and only 1 gas station survived. We do not need a gas station or a convenience store at that location, with Publix down the street and Target just a few miles, and a few miles down the road. So I'm encouraging you not to change the zoning. Let it remain residential as it is, as it's intended to be, because there's no need for a gas station, but there is need to keep our properties values up, our community looking beautiful as it does presently. Thank you.
Greetings, Board. Angie Collins, resident of Crystal Lake Golf and Country Club community, and I'm here to speak in opposition of the proposed gas station. When I purchased my home in Crystal Lake, I took pride in doing so. I took pride in the community. This community has been established as a single-family home community, and to put a gas station where there's a gas station, too, as has been previously acknowledged, right less than a walking distance. There's a gas station in the opposite direction, maybe a little over 2 miles, so it's not necessary to have a gas station. We're already dealing with backed up streets because of the traffic. That would change the residential character of what it is that we purchased when we initially purchased our homes in Crystal Lake. So I'm just really not understanding why this is even a proposal. That should remain a residential type property, and no type of gas station, convenience store, or any of the other things that they said that they want to put in that area should be allowed. Thank you.
My name is Rakeem Jones. I live at 616 Stone Loop, which is Crystal Park Point, right down the street from this proposed gas station. I disapprove of it in the fact and the manner that it is a gas station. It is inconvenient. It's not going to be a convenience to me or my neighbors when it comes to the things that they're going to be selling. That intersection is already congested in the morning when it comes to going to school, carrying my children to school. The buses already congested when it comes to them moving around. This is not a convenience to anyone in that area. It doesn't add any value in any way. It's not going to raise my property value. It's not going to do anything that's going to enhance our well-being over there. So I disapprove of it. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Dawn Gervin-Eisler at 300 Master Club Boulevard, also in the Crystal Lake subdivision, and I also disapprove of the proposed change. Not only are there 2 gas stations, but if you go down a couple of more miles, you have the BP, you have the Sam's Club. It's more than enough. We don't need any more of this. And then to hear that the proposed widening is not for another 3 years, we're already congested. I also disagree with the change proposed.
Good evening, gentlemen and lady. Hi, my name is Frandy Dunmore. I'm also a resident of Crystal Lake Boulevard, and I too purchased the home for the location of the beauty of the green space and the rolling topography of the landscaping. This proposed project will cause, as the lady stated before me, a congestion with people going from Mount Carmel out to Jonesboro, and for those coming into Mount Carmel, it's going to be a nightmare. It already is. I don't know if any of you have experienced driving in the area during critical times of morning rush hour, lunch rush hour, evening hours, or now. It's always hard. I feel like myself, I'm being held prisoner in my own home because I don't go out until after the rush hour because I'm retired, and I don't go out until after the rush hour, and I try to get back home by 2 or 3 o'clock already because of the traffic congestion. Drive through the neighborhoods during these peak times. Drive when school is being dismissed and parents are trying to get their children to school. It's already a nightmare. Please, I beseech you to do the right thing for the community and start bringing about growth that's going to increase our well-being for our neighborhood, green space, walking space, recreational, park and recreational facilities for our children and grandchildren. Let's do the right thing in Henry County. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Richard Sherrod. I live in Crystal Lake. I've been in the neighborhood about 10 years. I won't repeat what others have said, but I want to give you a new issue to think about. I moved here because you guys had a reputation for managing growth, and you had a strategic vision for managing your long-term plans. I've had at least 12 people that I know that have that intended to come to Henry County and buy upscale homes, and some of them intended to start businesses, and many of them said they won't do that because they perceive that Henry County has lost its ability to manage growth strategically in terms of long-term planning, and we've lost some businesses as a result of that, and I fear that those individuals, and possibly even me, will leave Henry County, and that would be not good for Henry County, and I just want to give you that issue to think about. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Phyllis Burdett. I live in Park Point at Crystal Lake. I am against this development, not only for the type of business that sits smack dab in the middle of residential, but my concern is any future crime is sitting in a desolate area where there are no other businesses. It's not very well lit. What type of crime will this invite? So I'm against this. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Bernice Hills, and I live at 126 Crystal Lake Boulevard, and I'm definitely opposed against this rezoning. It should remain as it has been rezoned for residential and agricultural, and this is definitely not something that we want to come to our community. It will devalue our community and our way of life there. So I am definitely opposed of this.
Good evening, Joshua Eckhoff, 341 Laura Lane, McDonough, Georgia. Reviews and photos speak 1,000 words, and like they said, I know y'all can't turn away development due to traffic because we'll get sued. So we'll look at photos and reviews. I know y'all can probably zoom in, but I'll read one. I hardly stop here since it's usually more expensive and it isn't kept clean. The sign says $3.19 for regular gas, but the pump changed to $3.24. These are reviews from his BP location over off Black Hall Road. Now, the young man looks like a great businessman. I got nothing against him, but like everyone says, we're trying to uphold our property values. He's not building a racetrack. It ain't going to be manicured. So then you look at the photos of this said location, and you have trash cans with no fence around it. Henry County has codes against that. No trash cans next to the pump, so that means trash blows into our right-of-way, on our roadways, and our woods. Landscape speaks 1,000 words. Curb appeal goes a long way. I don't see any edging or trimming. And when we talk about crime, y'all aren't aware of when the BP was, or the shell was built, criminals stole the front end loader, drove it through the front doors of CVS to take the ATM machine out. The BP owner told Brooks' mom that he doesn't have to run his business the way he does in Marietta because nobody calls. Well, we call, we come out, and we support each other. So we're in opposition of this, and I appreciate your time. I yield it back.
Good afternoon, board and chair. My name is Jamal Avery, 504 Shades Walk, McDonough, Georgia. As my neighbors have stated, we are in opposition of this proposed development. As stated, the high school and elementary school is within a mile of this location. I have a concern about crime. I have a concern about high school students skipping class to go hang out in front of the gas station. So I ask respectfully that you deny this request. Many reasons have been given to you guys tonight in regards to why to deny this particular request, but again, I respectfully ask that you deny it. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Brooke Winfrey, 341 Laura Lane. I live in the Villages at Walnut Creek behind the Shell gas station and BP. That's literally not even a mile from where they're trying to build this gas station. Like my previous homeowners say in the area, we really don't want another gas station. We want walking trails. We want beautiful areas full of nice homes and nice walking amenities and such. So we really don't want a gas station in this area. Maybe something different, maybe a commercial development that's like smaller scale or nicer amenities. But I'll yield to the rest of the homeowners in the area. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Kathy Hammonds at 135 Crystal Lake Boulevard. That is also at Crystal Lake subdivision. And I just agree with all of everything was just said. Can you tell me that this will not bring more traffic? 5 years ago, I said, oh my God, I told my neighbor, it's getting worse and worse. We're backed up. Traffic, 2-lane traffic, even if we get 4 lanes. We got all these apartment buildings, and we got a Publix, we got 2 gas stations. Why do we need another gas station?
Good evening. My name is Danielle Crow, and I reside at 1200 Sandcastle Court within Crystal Lake. I understand that many of my neighbors, and I'm glad to see so many of them here tonight, have voiced their concerns, but I'm here not only to let you know that I'm against the rezoning, the current proposed rezoning, but I'm also adamantly opposed of all of these requests that are being considered that do not align with our comprehensive plan. I want to thank our planners for adhering to our current land use map and our comprehensive plan, for having foresight and backbone, because I have been here for over 16 years in that same community. And I know sometimes when a few developers come and wave a few dollars, everyone forgets about what we decided would happen for the next 20 years. Henry County is currently one of the fastest growing in this region. But all change is not progress. We're already experiencing white flight to Jackson. And if we continue with this nickel and diming of our green space, you will soon lose more of your tax digest, because those of us who are contributing to it greatly, such as myself as both a resident and as a property owner and as a business owner, we will leave as well. Secondly, I want to also state and stress my concern about the proximity to Dutchtown school cluster. Trafficking is a real concern. I repeat that again. Trafficking is a real concern. And so we do not need additional activity near our school cluster that will not be properly monitored. So no commercial developments. We have enough. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Susan Dorsonville. I reside at 804 Suncrest Court in Crystal Lake. I'm just here to be another voice to say that I'm opposed to all of this. I agree with everyone that has gone before me. And I don't know how many times we have to come up here and say this, but we will continue to come up here and say this until you guys actually listen to the people who vote for you, your constituents. We don't want it. We don't understand why it has to happen. And there are just so many reasons why it's not necessary, as I'm sure you already know. So I'm just here to be another voice to say we are opposed.
Okay, we have 2 minutes, 48 seconds. Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition? Okay, I don't see any, okay. We have 2 minutes and 48 seconds, I believe.
Good evening. How is everybody doing? I'm Keisha Nicole Glass. I'm at 3277 Alhambra Circle in Crystal Lake Village. So we're the sister subdivision behind Crystal Lake. There is a significant traffic backlog at McCullough Road ever since that new subdivision was placed at the former 6 Dutchtown Road community. So all of my neighbors live towards I-75 from this development, but I have a perspective from the other side of McCullough Road and the other side of Dutchtown. Our traffic is so prohibitive coming out under Jonesboro Road, we can't even get to the intersection of McCullough and Jonesboro because of the traffic backlog going into the Dutchtown community. So I agree with all of my neighbors, but it's even worse further up towards Lovejoy. Thank you very much.
Good evening. My name is Cynthia Jewell, and I live at 925 Mystic Way, Hampton, Georgia. I'm into the traditions of Crystal Lake subdivision. I, too, like my neighbors, do not want this rezone for commercial property. When we think about crime and things like that, another gas station is going to bring that type of crime. It's going to be a place where people can stop and hang out. The gentleman before did show that there are several implications, not just the white flight that one of my neighbors talked about, but if you think about it, it also has implications for not only what it does for the property value, it also impacts the school system. I am a public school educator, and I know that if our property values are lower, then we're going to get a different type of clientele that is coming to Henry County that is going to be sitting in class beside my child in school. And that's why we moved here, to get away and to be in a safer place. I am pleading with you to consider that not just what it will look like, the aesthetics, what it will do to our community and the traffic, but what will it do for those of us who have children, and what will it do for our school systems? Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we have about 30 seconds.
Hi, I'm Dana Jones. I'm at 616 Sedona Loop in Park Point at Crystal Lake. My biggest concern is the children. Right now, we already have an issue in our own neighborhood with teenagers loitering in our neighborhood, parking their cars to sell drugs. There's condoms that we find on the floor. There's trash that we find in our own neighborhood that we have to call and report. So I can only imagine that this will give them another place to loiter and hang out, and how bad that would look for our community. So we just want to eliminate that altogether, because we are managing that in our own neighborhood, which is right a mile down the road. So I just want to voice that.
Okay. Does the board have additional questions for the applicant? Okay.
I would like to make a correction to the previous statement.
Yes.
Earlier I mentioned that the road widening would go from I-75 to North Mount Carmel. It's actually going to go from the Clayton County line to North Mount Carmel. I just wanted to put that on the record.
Thank you. All right. Staff?
So eventually it will do that, but the first phase of that will go out to North Mount Carmel. Okay?
Okay.
Just to add more clarity to that.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Toussaint. Does the board have additional questions for staff? Okay. If not, call the case, please.
Comp AM 2214, Hetch Walker Jordan, PC of Stockbridge, Georgia, requests an amendment to the comprehensive plan for property located at 40 Mount Carmel Road and land lot 107 of the 6th District. The property consists of 4.085 plus or minus acres, and the request is to amend the future land use map designation from medium density residential to commercial, District 5, presented by Faith Palmer, Planner 1.
Okay, and are you going to associate the second case?
Yes, sir, but we'll need to make a motion for this one first.
We've heard the case. Do we have a motion for Comp AM 2214?
I would like to make a motion for denial of the applicant's request to amend the future land use maps designation of the suggested property from medium density residential to commercial based on staff's recommendation.
Okay. We have a motion. Do we have a second? Second. Okay. Any discussion? All in favor? Motion carries unanimous. Next case, please.
RZ 2227, Hedge Walker Jordan, PC of Stockbridge, Georgia, request a rezoning from RA Residential Agricultural to C2 General Commercial for property located at 40 Mount Carmel Road and land lot 107 of the 6th District. The property consists of 4.085 plus or minus acres, and the request is for a commercial development. District 5, presented by Faith Palmer, Planner 1.
Okay, we've heard the case. Do we have a motion?
I would like to make a motion for denial of the applicant's request to rezone the subjected property from residential agricultural to general commercial based on staff's recommendation.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second by Mr. Risher. Any discussion? All in favor? Motion carries unanimous. Thank you. Call the next case, please.
RZ 2221, the Reservoir Group of Madison, Georgia, requests a rezoning from RA Residential Agricultural to RM Multifamily Residential for property located at 3168 Jonesboro Road and land lot 106 of the 6th District. The property consists of 21 plus or minus acres, and the request is for a townhome development. District 5, presented by Kenta Lanham, Planner 2.
Good evening, Chair and board members and citizens of Henry County. The item before you is for property located at 3168 Jonesboro Road and is approximately 21 plus or minus acres. And the request is to rezone the property from RA Residential Agricultural to RM Multifamily Residence. This is the aerial photograph of the subject property. Again, the current zoning is RA Residential Agricultural, and it has a future land use map designation of medium density residential, which would support up to 6.0 dwelling units per net acre. This is the conceptual site plan that was submitted by the applicant. The plan indicates 87 townhome units, meeting the standards of the RM zoning district. Here are a couple elevations that were provided by the applicant. This slide of the PowerPoint shows some characteristics of similar developments within the area. The subject property is indicated by the 1 that is on the left side of the screen. Here are a few comments that we've been provided by various department representatives. The applicant's request to rezone the property from RA to RM for a townhome development with 87 units. That proposed density is a net density of 6.0 dwelling units per acre. The future land use map, again, is medium density, which would support the density as proposed. The property is within the boundaries of the Highway Corridor Overlay District, and thus would need to meet those standards. There is future realignment for McCullough Road and Mitchell Road that are planned and have been indicated on the site plan. The right-of-way will need to be dedicated and preserved for the future realignment of McCullough Road. Mitchell Road, however, that right-of-way for that future realignment is currently under county ownership. The intersection of Jonesboro Road and Chambers Road is the extent to which multifamily would be appropriate, given the existing uses in the area. While the townhomes are permitted in the RM zoning district and the medium density residential future land use map designation, townhomes on the subject property would be out of character for the area, and thus planning staff is recommending denial of the applicant's request to rezone the property. Thank you, and I'd be happy to take any questions you might have.
Thank you. Does the board have questions for staff? Okay, there's no questions for staff. We'd like the applicant to come forward. Please state your name and address for the record.
Good evening, Chair, members of the board. Steve Moore, Moore-Bass Consulting, 1350 Keys Ferry Court, McDonough, Georgia. Here tonight representing the Reservoir Group in this application. As Kenta mentioned, the property is located on the north side of Jonesboro Road, just west of the entrance to Dutchtown High School. And we are requesting RA to RM, and I know the application says townhomes, and just for clarity purposes, the purpose of this application is fee simple condos. Just a slightly different, they'll look similar to townhomes, but the fee structure would be that of a condo rather than a townhome with lot lines down the side like you're accustomed to seeing. So, but I will get into that here in just a minute. But like Kenta said, we are designated as medium density residential, which, as you know, supports up to 6 units per acre. That's what we're asking for. I understand there may be some geographic boundaries of where that development has historically stopped of multifamily, but nonetheless, it is in your future land use map and designated as such, and we're definitely consistent with that. This is. I'll just show the site plan first. Get a clicker. Can you flip over to that? So the site plan. So we have a primary access to the project is off of Jonesboro Road. We have coordinated with SPLOST on the preliminary designs and alignments of Jonesboro Road, as well as what they generally think the realignment of McCullough will be. So we've accommodated that in our plan. The current alignment of Mitchell is here, and then the realignment is proposed there. And like Kenta said, that property is already under the ownership of the county. So in a temporary fashion, we would just have the access there, but then once that road was improved, that access would be relocated to the relocated Mitchell Road. Because we are in the highway corridor overlay, we're required to provide a minimum of this large 100-foot buffer along the frontage here. Further, we have just designated this tract that was bisected when that right-of-way was acquired as open space, so it would remain in its natural state as wooded just like it is, but further providing just a good buffer for that area. This is proposed to be a gated community. We have, like I said, a 100-foot buffer there, then 30-foot buffers around the perimeter, and then obviously it gets larger in some areas. Along Jonesboro Road and in consult with SPLOST, when they do their improvements, would accommodate the large multi-use path along Jonesboro Road with pedestrian lighting and the landscaping that the Highway Overlay District requires. The development's proposes a blend of 2- and 3-story brownstone style fee simple condos. So I'll just show you a couple of examples of what the applicant is proposing. This is a front view. These are the front facing but rear accessed 3-story units. This is that same unit but from the back side, so from the alley access side. So a little different architectural style, I think, than the county has probably seen. I'm not aware of many projects that have that true brownstone style. This is the 2-story product. Again, elevated above the entry levels to provide that look, and then those same units with the rear access being from the alley side for the 2-story units. So all of these units back up to or face 3 public or spaces, landscape community spaces. There's an amenity center that is proposed with a pool and a clubhouse, and that is rendered as such. And these are actual. These renderings are taken from the actual site plan. It's not stock imagery that I got off the internet or something. These are actually of the site. So these units would look over the cabana and swimming pool. These units would look over a large dog park area with a bocce ball court and a fire pit area there and a big open lawn. But again, those units will be accessed from this side, but their front would really face this common area. And then this is kind of in the heart of the project. It's in the very center of the development. It's a large kind of oval-shaped area with walking trails. It would also feature the mail kiosk. And just for context, I'll go back to the site plan. So that area we just looked at is here in the middle. That was the area with the dog park, and this is the area with the swimming pool. So these are, again, we think it's going to be a high-quality, kind of unique, architecturally unique project for the county. These would consist of 2 and 3 bedroom units. Probably, we're thinking that for the 3 bedroom, somewhere in the 1,800 square foot range. Slightly smaller for the 2 bedroom, maybe 1,600, but certainly that is just is what we're thinking at this point. All the units would have 2-car garages, would feature oversized driveways, large enough to accommodate extra parking in the driveway. We will also offer on-street parking. Because it's a condo, we can do private streets, and gives us a lot of flexibility in design where we can provide ample off-street parking to avoid people parking in the roads, because I know that's always a concern. And then if I could play this is a video of the same renderings, but just put kind of in motion just to give some context if it helps. So that's that big center green area that we were just talking about. And the two story units predominantly are in the interior of the project, and then the 3 stories are around the exterior of the project. Those are the 2-story units. That's the rear view of those 2-story units. And that's the fronts of the two-story. And that's the fronts of the 3-story units. Access to those would be in the rear. And then that's the garage view of those same units. And that's one of the amenity areas with the dog park and the fire pit and bocce ball. And the developer intentionally has looked outside of the surrounding areas to find an architectural style of these buildings that is something, similar to what you would find on the north side. Hopefully you can tell that through these videos. There's a lot of work done, though, research to try to get a unique, different architectural style, especially with the 3-story units and the brownstone styles. And that's the pool. So while that's finishing out, I don't want to run out of time, but I know staff has recommended denial based on the location of this and based on the historic trend of where development started and stopped. But reading through the staff report, would have just some questions about that recommendation. There was, staff has an obligation to look at not only that, but there's also 8 criteria points by which some of these decisions are made. And reading through the report, it feels like we comply with the majority of those. I mean, or maybe even all of those. There was we're consistent with the future land use map. That is certainly one criteria that every responsible planner should use. The development of the site as a multifamily subdivision is consistent with RM. It states that the property can physically support the proposed development. It states that, with appropriate zoning conditions, that any adverse conditions that would potentially impact adjacent properties could be mitigated with appropriate zoning conditions. And I've done this enough times that I know that there's plenty of conditions that get imposed on projects. And then there's adequate utilities available and adequate capacity in those utilities, water and sewer. So based on the above, we respectfully request your consideration of potentially something different than what staff has recommended. But I'm happy to answer any questions. I appreciate your time and look forward to talking soon. Thank you.
Thank you. Does the board have questions for the applicant? Ms. Walker.
I was just wondering, how large will the apartments be? How many square feet?
The 3 bedrooms would be approximately 1,800, and the 2 bedrooms 1,600. But just to clarify, they're not apartments. These are fee simple, no rentals. Okay, just making sure.
I have one other question.
Yes,
now, I see you proceed. So what kind of people are you going to be selling to? Because I didn't see anything for any children. I saw the dog park.
Yes, ma'am. And we believe that this is probably more, would cater more to a millennial age group, somebody that's looking to maybe buy their first home, that's not ready to go into a subdivision, that likes the convenience of, being able to not have to maintain yards. These will be exterior maintained, all the landscape maintained by an association. So, if nobody knows how to cut grass, it's a perfect place for them to have a house, and then they can use those open spaces, those community areas to get their recreation. But that's that, or it could be an empty nester. It could be someone who is just done cutting grass and they're ready to have somebody else take care of it.
What's the price point?
We think they'll be starting in the mid 300s, and they could go up. I mean, that number changes almost on a weekly basis with construction costs, but that's the general number right now.
Thank you.
Okay, any additional questions for Mr. Richard?
Yes, on your site plan, it shows an undeveloped tract between the townhomes and the future of
yes, sir,
of the McCullough Road realignment. And then secondly, have you looked at the possibility of a layout for a small single-family subdivision of detached homes instead of townhomes?
I have, so in regards to that surplus property there, again, we think that alignment is going to be somewhere in that ballpark. Not 100% sure where that road was, not 100% locked down as far as where that McCullough Drive was going to get relocated. We think it was generally there. The ownership boundary actually crosses over that and runs all the way up to the current angled intersection. We knew that there was going to be some changes happening with that. And again, because we're in the highway overlay district, there's 100-foot buffers along public roads. And if that road, if it's there, I mean, there's really nothing that's going to even be able to happen with that property likely. So we just chose we got what we needed density-wise. We kind of carved the property out to where it matched up with the density that the future land use map supports, and then just left that property out. And there's no imminent plans for that. It was we just chose to leave it out based on the uncertainty of what was going to happen with McCullough Road. As it relates to what was the second question you asked about the?
I said, have you looked at possible layouts for a single-family subdivision with detached homes on individual lots?
Yes, and we did. And I can tell you, just again, with the buffers that are required from the highway overlay district, I got a 100-foot buffer there, I got a 100-foot buffer there. If it was done as a conservation subdivision, I'm sorry, the 100-foot buffer is not a requirement of the highway overlay district, just to be clear. That's a requirement of the conservation subdivision. I apologize. We are still proposing a 100-foot buffer, though. But by the time you the best the smallest single-family lot that you could build in Henry County right now is as part of a conservation subdivision. It's 8,000 something. That's a fifth of an acre, 60 feet wide. But when you do it with that, then you have to impose those 100-foot buffers and then a 50-foot buffer around the perimeter. There's very little room left to do much of anything. Now, if the board was willing to approve something smaller on a detached level that's, that in lieu of something like this, I'm sure the applicant would be interested in talking about that. But it just from a density standpoint, you're looking at maybe 20 or 30 lots compared to what the future land use map calls out for this property. You wouldn't be able to generate anything that got close to what the future land use map calls out.
Okay. Any additional questions for the applicant? I have a couple questions. You indicated something about a fee.
About a what?
You said fee
simple?
free or something. Fee what?
Fee simple?
Fee simple?
Meaning that there won't be rentals. They'll be owned by individuals,
okay.
And not a rental community. I know I've presented some of those rental townhome communities. That's not what this is intended to be. This is intended to be owned. Each of these units owned by an individual, and then all of the area outside of the four walls of their particular unit will be owned by an association, maintained, managed, kept up.
Okay. So, as representing the owner, you don't feel that going with single family would yield your benefit?
It would not yield near the density that the future land use map, again, allows and supports. Not saying it's impossible, but the best, or like I said, the smallest lot that you can do would be a 60-foot wide lot And if you did it as a conservation subdivision, which is the only way you can get a 60-foot wide lot, 40% of that would go in open space. And then 100-foot buffers around the roads, all the roads that surround it, which is 3 roads, Mitchell, Jonesboro, and McCullough. And it leaves very little room for any kind of development.
Okay. Any additional questions for the applicant? Okay. At this time, we would like to allot, we have 1 minute for anyone wishing to speak in favor. Okay, I don't see anyone coming forward. So we're going to allow 10 minutes for anyone wishing to speak in opposition. We have a total of 10 minutes for anyone wishing to speak in opposition. This is a single case, so we're only doing 10 minutes. Thank you. Please state your name and address for the record.
Good afternoon. My name is Kenyatta Smith, and I reside at Park Point at Crystal Lake. This would be an impossible project because with Dutchtown Cluster right on this road, I'm wondering if the developer went and did a study on the traffic that bottlenecks right here at this same exact location, trying to get the kids to school, come home, parents picking the elementary schools up, kids up from aftercare, where there's a fee if there's late, from Jonesboro Road all the way before you curve to go on Mitchell. It's totally impossible to move around. And that road, that gray road that leads right out into, there would be any cars trying to come in or out that road would be impossible. So I'm wondering if the developer really took his time to do some research to look at high volume time going to the Dutchtown Cluster. Thank you, and I do not agree with this. Thank you.
Good evening. Once again, my name is Danielle Crow, and I'm a resident in Crystal Lake. I come before you to express my opposition to the matter at hand to change this from RA to high density. Quite simply, we don't need any high density in this area. And consistently having the comprehensive plan modified really nullifies the whole purpose of having a long-term comprehensive plan. One, thank you all for your service. I know that you all are appointed. You're citizens just like us and you live here. So I know you understand the importance of those of us who live here and who have to endure these consequences for the next 20, 30 years. This is why we're so adamantly opposed. Secondly, that process, the comprehensive plan process, is one that typically takes 12 to 18 months, where we have professionals who are planners and we bring in other experts. The county pays maybe $200,000 plus for the plan, and we have citizens who come in and take part of it. To consistently let things slide through a rezoning puts that all to waste. Let's stop doing that. Secondly, Ordinance 23-2 is a moratorium on multifamily units like this. Thank you. Our board put this in place because there's too much of this going on. We have to get a handle of this. Let's not get excited by a nice plan and, whatever that looks like. It's still going to be hell on the streets. The congestion, dealing with all of that. So those are my main points. I could go on, but please deny this.
Please state your name and
Joshua Eckhoff, 341 Laura Lane, McDonough, Georgia. I don't know if y'all know, but around the corner off Highway 41, an employee of Taco Bell was killed and ran down because there's no sidewalks. And I know you can't turn this away due to traffic because you'll get sued, but let's think about the crime. The schools are overloaded. I saw them driveways. The guy's doing good. There's a lot of greenery here, but in Florida, we got fountains at the ponds and retention ponds, sidewalks around it. These driveways won't fit 1-2 cars. And I don't know about y'all, but nowadays there's 4-6 cars per family. And then how's the fire department going to get in there and put out a fire when one house catches and they all go up? So I allot my time back to our federal citizens, and thank you for all you do.
Hello, my name is Rakeem Jones. I live at 616 Sedona Loop, Hampton, Georgia. I want to talk about these homes look like they're low-income homes. And what that means is that that's going to go to the schools, which is right there. I have 3 daughters in these schools. And what I've seen is that they're overcrowded. There's a lot of problems when it comes to the children and how they're acting. The school has no way to really handle that, and adding an extra volume of children into the school system is not going to be beneficial to anybody. You know, not to anybody. There's no plans to expand the school. When I mean schools, I mean Dutchtown Elementary and Middle School. I know the high school just expanded, but I have a daughter in elementary and I have two daughters in middle school. They're overcrowded. Plain and simple. Adding these homes, that's what's going to happen. These are, I think he was saying they were low-valued homes and single family and all this. That just means that's going to turn into a rental community. That's what that means. So, also, there are not enough, thank you. Also, there are not enough police in the area to handle all this. When I just had to file a police report at the middle school, there was one police officer that handles a high school, that handles the elementary school, that handles the middle school. What if something really goes bad in one of these schools? This one person who wasn't there at the time when I went to go speak to them in the morning, I had to wait 30 minutes for him to show up. So if something really does happen, and then there's an incident someplace else in McDonough or Hampton or whatever, there's not enough police officers. This is going to be causing a greater issue than any kind of solution that is supposed to be posed. Thank you for your time.
Good evening, Cynthia Jewell, 925 Mystic Way, Hampton, Georgia. The gentleman gave a great presentation. His exact words were, we believe this may be for millennials or retirees. He cannot prove that. Furthermore, I do not believe that retirees would move in a brownstone where they have to walk up 2 and 3 flights of stairs to get in. So you're not going to get that. There is nothing that is going to prevent me from purchasing that property and subleasing it to my nephew who cannot do it on his own. And once that happens, this gentleman will be nowhere to be found because he does not live here. Furthermore, I used to be a principal in the Stockbridge community. Stockbridge was more so black and brown students, and even the educators think that Stockbridge is now the rough neighborhoods of Henry County schools. If you look around this room is filled with black and brown people for the most part. Black and brown does not mean that we are poor and uneducated. Black and brown means just that. I said that to say that if we allow these type of developments to continue to come into our area, it is going to end up with renters in them. It is going to end up with people doubling up, and that is going to impact what is happening in your schools. Henry County, for the first time, has 2 schools on the state designated list. They have never had that before, and it is because of some of the rezoning and properties that you are allowing in, not right here, but in other places in Henry County. So just beware that when we do this and when we rezone and we allow people to come in who could be renters that bring a different mentality, then it is going to end up in your schools, bring your property values down, and then we're going to have even a bigger mess on our hands. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Jennifer Hicks. I live at 509 Casuarina Concourse in Crystal Lake subdivision as well. And the problem that I see with bringing this community in, there would approximately be about maybe 250 to 300 additional children that will be also living in this neighborhood, which will overcrowd our schools. If the developer, which they did a very good plan, if they were that interested in our community, they would have had this a 55 and older community where there are flat level homes, because that's what we don't have in this community for our seniors. We don't have a 55 and plus. I would love to move my mother around the corner from me. Thank you.
Good evening, Angie Collins, Crystal Lake Golf and Country Club community. My concern is that by adding a development like this, what you're looking at is congestion in our school system. And when you have schools that are already overcrowded, as a native Atlantan, I never went to school with trailers, and I drive by that school and I'm thinking, what is going on with all of these trailers out there? If you were to add a development like that, you're talking about a potential 100 plus more students. Now, not only that, when you have that kind of drain on the educators that are teaching, how can they properly give all of these kids kids a great education. And if you're leaving kids without a great education, the test scores are going to go down. When the test scores go down and people start looking at investing in a property, they're not going to look at this area because, of course, property values, test scores dictate property values. So once that all starts to go down, what happens to our property values? What happens is we start to leave, and then you get a different element moving into this county. And I think we're better than that. So I hope you all do deny this. Thank you.
Hello, Phyllis Burdette, Annie Lise Briscoe from Park Point at Crystal Lake. I brought my Dutchtown Middle School student just as further proof she can attest that the schools are already overcrowded. Her classes have 30 plus students to one teacher who can barely keep control of the class. Bringing in more multi-family homes like this will further exacerbate that problem. Number two, with traffic, trying to get out from picking her up from school, I'm surprised more people have not been killed at that intersection. We don't need more traffic going up and down those roads. Anything you want to say?
I feel like you shouldn't do that really because there would be more traffic and there would be more car wrecks really, so that's it.
Hello, Lisa Ward.
For this evening, we will, I think the board fully understand that you guys are in opposition.
Yes,
so
we're in opposition.
We clearly understand. Thank you. Okay. Does the board have additional questions for the applicant or staff? Okay, if not, you may call the case, please.
RZ 2221, the Reservoir Group of Madison, Georgia, requests a rezoning from RA Residential Agricultural to RM Multifamily Residential for property located at 3168 Jonesboro Road and land lot 106 of the 6th District. The property consists of 21 plus or minus acres, and the request is for a townhome development. District 5, presented by Kenta Lanham, Planner 2.
Okay, we've heard the case. Do we have a motion?
Chair would like to make a motion for denial of the requested rezoning from residential agricultural to multifamily residence based on staff's recommendation.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Richardson. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second by Mr. Risher. Any discussion? All in favor? Motion carries unanimous. Call the next case, please.
RZ 2226, Brent Holdings, LLC of Fayetteville, Georgia, requests a rezoning from RA Residential Agricultural to R2 Single Family Residence for property located at 3805 Highway 81 East and land lots 143, 144, 145, and 146 of the 8th District. The property consists of 210.27 plus or minus acres, and the request is for a single-family residential development, District 3, presented by Kenta Lanham, Planner 2.
Good evening once more, Chair, board members, and citizens of Henry County. The property before you is located at 3805 Highway 81 East. It is 210.27 plus or minus acres. The request before you is to rezone the subject property from RA Residential Agricultural to R2 for a single-family residential subdivision served by individual septic systems. The future land use map designation for this subject property is low-density residential, which would support up to 2 dwelling units per net acre. This is the conceptual site plan that was provided to us by the applicant. The plan indicates 176 lots. Again, these lots would be served by individual septic system. Here are some elevations for the proposed subdivision. Here are some characteristics of similar developments within the area. The subject property is indicated by the number 1, center of the screen. Here are some comments that we received from various departments. The applicant's request to rezone the subject property from RA to R2 is for 176 lots as previously stated. This will have a proposed density of 1.15 dwelling units per net acre. Again, the future land use map designation supports up to 2 dwelling units per net acre with that low-density residential designation. The site plan indicates 106 lots to be designed to a conventional R2 layout. That is a minimum lot area of 30,000 square feet. The remainder 70 units is designated as a conventional R1 layout with a minimum lot area of 1 acre. The property is within the boundaries of the Highway Corridor Overlay District and would be required to comply with those standards. Staff does recommend approval of the applicant's request to rezone the property from RA to, I'm sorry, that should say R2 single-family residence, and that is with conditions. Again, that recommendation should say RA to R2. I'd be happy to take any questions you might have.
Okay. Does the board have questions for staff? Mr. Richard.
Yes. Thank you for your presentation. In the site plan, well, I guess the overall plan that there would be a section of about 106 lots that would be 30,000 square feet with 125 feet wide at the building line. And as I understand it, this will be, all of these lots will be served on individual septic tanks and or systems and county water. Is that?
That is correct.
So, the second question is that that there's 70, I believe 70 lots shown on the plan, which I think in the report you indicate that that they have R1 characteristics, but the whole application is for R2, and this this is a very large tract. It's very much of a transition between the schools and the park and the development that has occurred in the Ola area. We do look to try to have it in this section of the county and others a transition to more of a lower density. I think in the comprehensive plan it would just a little further on it designates areas as rural residential. So this is and I guess this is a question for the applicant when they come up, is if part of this is R1 characteristics, then why not make the whole area R1, which would be 1 acre lots. There are some drainage areas that bisect this large tract. I did look up some information in the Henry County Soil Survey, and although the most of the areas would be suitable for on-site septic systems, there are some areas with soils that may have some low percolation, which would perhaps lend itself better to perhaps 1 acre lots rather than 30,000 square feet. So that's all I have to say for the moment. I might have some more questions later for the applicant.
Any additional questions for staff? Okay, if no questions, we'd like the applicant to come forward. Please state your name and address again for the record.
Evening, Chair, members of the board. Steve Moore, Moore Bass Consulting, 1350 Keys Ferry Court, McDonough, Georgia. And just for the record, I reside on East Lake Road in Henry County and have for 27 years I've lived here. So I know there's some statements about me not being from here. I'm not from here, but I've been here a long time. I'm here tonight representing Brent Holdings on this rezoning request tonight. This is just a rendered version of the site plan. Mr. Risher, I'm happy to cover the topics that you asked about, and I will cover those in my presentation. But as you see, the property lies north of Highway 81 East, just east of the North Ola Park. The subdivision that you see at the bottom left corner is Norman Estates, which is under construction right now. It was zoned as part of the mixed-use zoning that was given with the Publix, which sits kind of right off the page here, off the screen. Our request is to rezone from RA to R2 for a 176-lot subdivision that will be on septic tanks and public water. The future land use map designation is low density, which supports up to 2 units per acre. We're proposing approximately half of that density. We're at 1.15 units per acre with this layout. We have 2 entrances proposed to the project. One is off of Highway 81 across from Ellis Drive. At that entrance, it's hard to read on this map, but there's an amenity area proposed there with a pavilion and a pool and grilling areas, playgrounds, etc. The second entrance is proposed right here off of what we think could be a future roadway that helps with this area. So I'll just dig in a little bit deeper. When this property was rezoned, there was a commitment or a condition that they had to preserve right-of-way. I think it's along their entire eastern boundary line for a future extension. Keys Ferry Road, I don't know if it's just barely off that map. Keys Ferry is right there. So that the intent was for that right-of-way to be preserved for possible extension of Keys Ferry Road in the future. We absolutely, when we start working on this, identified that is certainly a really good idea to at least preserve that right-of-way. And then the question was, where does it go from there? There's a large creek here. You got the park here, but you got all the high schools and all of the elementary and everything happening right here. So we proposed a possible alignment. Obviously, we don't control all the property, but we can control what's on our, what goes through our property. And so we did propose an alignment to the county, to staff and to some of the leadership that just said, hey, we're going to preserve a right-of-way that kind of looks like that. And there's no commitment on the county's part. We think it's a great idea if there's some future funding opportunity through a SPOS program or something else that could potentially help with that, construct that road to alleviate traffic at Keys Ferry and 81 and also at North Ola and 81, especially if it's school traffic. That would be an excellent opportunity to take it off of 81. So that's where what we have committed to do is to build the first 300 feet or so of that roadway. And that would be where we would propose our first entrance to be, or our second entrance rather. And then we would just preserve that area for future construction. If the county agrees that's a good idea and there's a funding mechanism to pay for it, we just wanted to make sure that we pulled all of our development off of that, which we have in the site plan. So the property is in the Highway Overlay District, and we have proposed, actually it's a 100-foot wide buffer, even though it's not required. We've proposed that. We know that we've heard that especially in this district for other zonings, that's been a request. So we have provided a 100-foot vegetative buffer along Highway 81. That obviously, just like all projects in the Highway Overlay District, would have the large sidewalk and the pedestrian lighting and the landscaping along there. So as a transition from Norman Estates, which is, although it's zone mixed use, I think there's 22,000 square foot minimum lots. I think they're constructed, or they were approved to the R2 Seward option or zoning option that you have. So these are 22,000 square foot, and then these are 30,000 square foot, and then these are 43,560 square foot. So it did feel like it was a rational transition from density ranges or lot sizes rather, as you move to the more rural sections, which are the far east of the property. Approximately 40% of the lots, of the overall lots that are proposed, are R1 size lots, 1 acre lots. We would be willing to take that as a zoning condition. It may be in there. I don't remember it specifically. Was it? Okay, so, and the site plan can certainly speak to that as well. But these lots are intended to be 1 acre. These lots are 3/4 of an acre. The lots over here would be 150 feet wide. the 1 acre lots, I'm going to stop calling them R1 because I don't want to confuse it. The 1 acre lots are 150 feet wide by approximately 300 some odd feet deep. And then these R2, the minimum would be 125 by 240 foot, which gets you to 30,000 square feet. Again, the future land use map could support up to 300 units on this piece of property. We're proposing, almost, just nearly half of that. The elevations, I know they were in the earlier presentation. I have just they're the same exact elevations, but I'll let you look at these in a blown up version. So there is no builder that is selected. The applicant is a developer by trade. They're not a builder. I know a lot of times I come up here and I represent builder/developer. This is a developer, and they build lots, and then they have a group of folks that would hopefully be interested in purchasing these lots. There is no builder selected based on the lot size. It's a large lot size, and they're going to be very expensive lots to construct, just based on just the construction cost today. When you have a lot that's 175 or 150 foot wide, it's a very expensive lot to build, and I think it's going to narrow the margin of what builders would be interested or able to work in here. I don't think we're going to attract the large national tract builders that go in a lot of subdivisions around here. We expect that the end user is going to be more of a semi-custom, smaller, maybe regional sized builder that would be, that would build something similar to what these elevations show. So the staff has recommended approval of the project, and I know there is several conditions, I think 20 conditions that have been proposed. We have no issue with any of the conditions, except there's one that does suggest an all brick, I think it's 4 sides brick or stone, with 20% maximum allocated to accents. What we believe is that this is a uniquely sized. I would venture to guess there's not a ton of applications that you guys have heard lately that have asked for 1 acre lots in a subdivision, or 3/4 acre lots in a subdivision. So this is a kind of a unique thing in this time and in this day and age. And so we feel like that the architectural styles are probably going to be consistent with the lot sizes and the more rural feel, and that doesn't necessarily align with all brick homes, although there are some that are very nice. But what we want to do is attract a builder that has the flexibility to be able to offer a variety of house types to the applicant or to their customers. That's consistent with one of the zoning conditions that talks about the number of houses that can't repeat itself in a row within this community. So what we would ask is that that condition be reworded to a condition that's very similar to others that we've talked about, which is the 2 or more of the following on all sides, brick, stone, or cement fiberboard, which requires at a minimum a brick water table, but gives the flexibility to the builder or his customer to do more current type house construction. A modern farmhouse, that's a huge thing right now, is where a lot of people are building. They're not all brick. Some of them might be painted brick, but they're not all brick. They have a variety of materials, and that is what, that's not necessarily a modern farmhouse, but that is an image that shows a variety of building materials that's not all brick, and it looks very nice. I think it does. So we would ask that there's that condition be modified just to give the people, the customers, the builders, especially builders who offer customer choice, where a customer can come in and pick those things, as long as there's some guidance in there of the minimums they can do, but it gives them just the flexibility where you're not looking through a brick home after a brick home after a brick home, and the only thing you change is the color and which side the garage is on or something like that. We think there's a majority of these are going to be side entry garages. It's going to be a really nice community based on the width of the lots. It could really present very well and give that variety, but I think the architectural variety is part and parcel to that. So we would ask that. There wasn't a condition about square footage. We think 2,500 square foot is a minimum that we would be willing to commit to, and we expect the price of this community to start in the upper 500s, and it wouldn't surprise me if they go into the 600s, 700s, 800s, just based on construction costs. So thank you for your time. Happy to answer any questions you have.
Okay, does the board have questions for the applicant? Okay, if there's no questions for the applicant, we would like to allot 10 minutes for anyone wishing to speak in opposition. Okay. Well, we don't have any time for it, Fraser. Okay. 10 minutes for anyone wishing to speak in opposition.
Chair, I would like to point out that regarding, we've heard some concerns about rental communities and rentals within, as of tonight. I did want to point out that condition 20 of our recommended conditions does address this. We do have that rental cap set to 10%. Okay. Just wanted to point that out.
All right. Okay, I don't see anyone coming forward. Does the board have additional questions for the applicant? Okay. Call the case, please.
RZ 2226, Brent Holdings LLC of Fayetteville, Georgia, requests a rezoning from RA Residential Agricultural to R2 Single Family Residence for property located at 3805 Highway 81 East and land lots 143, 144, 145, and 146 of the 8th District. The property consists of 210.27 plus or minus acres, and the request is for a single-family residential development. District 3, presented by Kenta Lanham, Planner 2.
Okay, we've heard the case. Do we have a motion?
Yes, I would like to make a motion to approve with the staff recommendations, with one exception, and that would be that that there would be 70 lots as shown on this site plan, that there would be zoned R1, and then the remaining 106 lots would be R2 30,000 square feet lots.
Okay.
And all the other conditions in the staff report would apply.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a second. Any discussion? Ms.
Yes, one point of clarification. We have a condition that addresses this, rather than the change that Mr. Risher is recommending, and that is, let me find that. That is condition number 5. It does specify there should be at least 70 lots meeting development standards of the R1 single-family zoning district. That was included to avoid a split zone situation. It's not our preference to have split zoning properties, developments. Of course, if it's the pleasure of the board to continue with that recommendation as Mr. Risher presented, that is fine. We would just ask that it replaces condition 5.
I would feel more comfortable with the 70 lots as shown on the plan to be, zoned as they are drawn on the plan, which would be to the R1 standards, and therefore those 70 lots would be zoned R1 under my motion, and that the balance, which is 106 lots, would be R2.
Okay. Any further discussion? Any discussion by our staff? Okay, we have a motion and we have a second. All in favor? Motion carries unanimous. Thank you. Our next announcement is that I believe our next meeting will be, I was looking at May the 11th, 2023, and that's going to conclude our cases for tonight. Motion to adjourn.
I'll move.
So adjourned.